What's going on, LA? Alright, I'm going to talk to you all about how to run social media ads in 2022. So just to give you a little bit of information about myself, my name is Sociallyin. Today I'm going to talk about what makes ads successful in 2022. What is the current landscape? What is the ins and outs of what it is that you need to be thinking about when running these campaigns? And then ultimately, where is the landscape really heading? Where are ads taking us in 2022? And just to get started, a little bit about myself and the agency. I work at Sociallyin. I'm a partner there. We are a 100% focused social media agency, and we've been now doing this for about 11 years. We're a team of about 70 people, and a little bit about my background is I started in the hospitality space like most first-generation Indian Americans. My parents first migrated from India to here, and we were in the hospitality industry, and we owned hotels and motels. So growing up, a lot of what I learned from a business aspect was what did it take to manage a hotel, what did it take to understand how to make it successful, how to make it grow. And as I started to go into school, I started to realize that I really had an urge for entrepreneurship and building things. So when I graduated, I got my business administration degree. I started to work with corporate businesses in their operations. So first I worked with Tutti Frutti, they're a yogurt company. I'm sure some of you may have heard of them. After that, I worked at Holiday Inn corporate and ultimately got the ins and outs of still running and managing hotels. And lastly, I was working at Subway, where I was an area manager for about 10 locations in the New Orleans market. And that really taught me the ins and outs of how to hire people, how to fire, how to read the numbers, what's important. But then Sociallyin started in 2011 by our CEO Keith. I joined the agency in 2014, and at that time we were only a shop of about 5 people. We're now a team of 70, so tremendous growth over that time. But Sociallyin is what's really brought me all of the knowledge that I'm going to share with you all today. I learned firsthand experience. I didn't read books, I didn't get mentors, I didn't understand just by reading something online that, hey, this is what we need to do. It was through the hard work, through going through it, through the experiences day in, day out, that I'm able to present to you all of the things that we've learned today. Okay, so who is Sociallyin? Like I mentioned earlier, we're a 100% focused social media agency. We're collaborative, we're immersive, we're strategic, we're data-driven. What we do is we help the world's largest brands that you see here on both sides of me execute their day-to-day social needs, whether that's strategy, whether that's creating the content for them, whether that's engaging with their community. Pretty much from top to bottom, we do everything in the realm of social media. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, we're a team of over 70 people. We have a full production studio in Atlanta where not only do we have our own in-house content production, but we're able to create literally any type of content from photo shots all the way to movie level production. So on top of that, we work with some of the largest brands, Fortune 500 clients like Nikon, Samsung, Carnival Cruise Line. And at the end of the day, not only do we do social media in its core roots, we actually have 3 divisions inside of Sociallyin that also are an extension of what we do as a social agency. The SEO arm that helps work with companies on their SEO, link building, their websites. We have a social selling division. Some of you may have been here for the earlier talks with Lorenzo, who was talking about how does social sell, why is it efficient, how do we get in front of those prospects on LinkedIn, and lastly, like I mentioned to you all, the Sociallyin Studios, which is our full in-house production studio. Okay, a little bit about us. Here's some recognition awards that we've won here. I'd like to highlight the Pace Setters Award that we just won. We just moved to Atlanta last year as our corporate headquarters, and we were the 13th fastest growing company in Atlanta. The 3 years before that, we were in Birmingham, Alabama, and we were the top 10 fastest growing companies in Alabama for 3 years as well. So just a few highlights. Thankful for the team. Agency partnerships. So these are important, right? Between being a social agency, especially running tons and tons of large ad budgets for our clients, it's important for us to have relationships with the platforms that we spend all this money on. We were one of the first 300 TikTok global agencies in the world, partners in the world. We're a Facebook marketing partner, we're a Google partner, and then down here are some of the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis to ultimately help get the job done. If there's any questions about those, please come talk to me afterwards. I'd be more than happy to explain what we utilize them for. Okay, we manage over $10 million a year across all of the relevant social platforms. That means Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. If it's a social platform, we run ads on it. Okay, here's some notable clients, just like the backdrop behind me. We won't spend too much time on that. So I want to talk a little bit about the current state of social media advertising in 2022. What does that mean exactly, right? We've all understood and seen Facebook's ads. I'm sure all of us have been on our phone and we've seen an ad pop up. But what maybe some of you haven't realized is a lot has changed in the advertising space. It's harder to get in front of the people you're looking for. The data isn't as accurate as it used to be. Organic reach is dead, so if you think you're going to post on Facebook and people are going to see it, that's not going to happen, sorry. It's paid to play, and what that really means is if you want to be seen on the relevant social networks where your audience is, you have to pay the dollars to get in front of them, or it comes down to the creative content on the organic channels that still make sense, like TikTok and LinkedIn. But everybody knows in due time those platforms will mature as well, and guess what? You'll have to spend the dollars there as well. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about it, social media advertising is a game changer, right? All the businesses that we work with day in, day out, how we really help them, a lot of it is through the content that we create, a lot of it is through the community, the engaging, a lot of it is through the brand awareness, but really what drives the results when the client's like, hey, what is my ROI? It's the paid advertising. That's what really brings the value. That's how you can tie dollar for dollar on what you got back. That's really what they're looking for, is how did my ads work? And ultimately, they work very well. We all know that everybody's on social media. It does convert. So really, it's been a game changer for performance marketers, right? Before in the day, you had your newspaper, you had your billboard, you had your radio, but you couldn't gauge what was happening. Did that result in a purchase? Did people actually buy my product? Well, guess what? Now you can actually tell when people buy your products. And guess what? Not only can you do that, you can get back in front of them after they've bought something, right? So what's become difficult, I don't know how aware everybody is in the marketing space, specifically in paid, but with the new iOS changes that came out, a lot of tracking got difficult, right? You're not able to retarget as much anymore. You're not able to understand, hey, what actions did people take on my website as clearly? And in certain situations, the data just doesn't match what actually ended up happening. Well, that's because with these new changes, it's made it harder to track, but don't worry, I will tell you exactly what you should be doing in order to alleviate that situation. Okay? Customers online are now discovering and purchasing new products in record-breaking numbers. Here's a few stats of how many individuals utilize social right now. These are the core social platforms. I won't spend too much time on these stats. I don't want to bore you all. All of this is able to be found on Google. You can pretty easily get it in front of you. But what I do want to showcase is social is here to stay. It's growing. TikTok has already reached over 1 billion monthly users. And we're not going to go away from this landscape for quite some time. So what that means is, since it's here to stay, we need to understand how to work in the landscape, how to maneuver around it. What is it that we really need to be doing to get the results that we're looking for? So here are some stats. Last year, there was $55 billion spent in the US market on paid social. That's expected to grow to $67 billion this year. So it's a huge market globally. That number is closer to about $150 billion. So just here in the US, it's a large market, but overall, in order to get in front of your market segments, you need to be on paid social. Like I mentioned before, all of these relevant socials, you may not need to be on all of them, but we'll have a caveat to that here in a moment. But it is important for you to be where your customer is, and they are on social media. 84% of the US uses at least one social media platform. Think about that. 7.9 billion people in the world, 84% of the US, but 4.48 billion people around the world. That's more than 50% of people in the world utilize social media, at least one network. 4 out of 10 utilize it for work purposes. So not only is the general consumer on there just to engage with the content or see what's happening, people are actually there for business. They're interacting with others, they're networking, they're engaging with each other, they're having conversations, and then they're making purchasing decisions based off of this. Social media will account for 33% of all digital advertising spend in 2022. So for those of you that say, hey, my audience is not on social, I don't use it, Actually, I would be very surprised if any of you are not using social media advertising yet. And if you're not, this number right here can ultimately help you understand 33% of all money spent on advertising in the world, whether that's TV, traditional, radio, social, 33% of it is on social media. And then, like I mentioned, a few of these other numbers, we won't dig too deep into them, but they kind of paint the picture of where does the social landscape currently reside and what is ultimately going to happen next. So why use paid social, right? Paid social, like I mentioned earlier, has the ability to not only build your brand awareness, but you can really educate people and bring value to them. And that's the number one reason why I promote paid socials. I know at the end of the day, we're trying to get a dollar for dollar, we're trying to get an ROI, but in order to be a relevant social brand, what's important is for you to actually engage and provide value with your audience. And because you provide this value, guess what happens? It creates leads, it drives sales, and it establishes you as a brand authority or an industry leader, and that's what people are really looking for. I may need a hair product today, but I may see an ad and I ultimately say, hey, I'm not going to buy it right now. Well, because I looked at this product, they can actually get back in front of me when I am ready to buy, and as a result of me already engaging with it, they're able to transact on me as far as those ads are concerned. So at the end of the day, you get a high ROI, but like I mentioned, what's the problem is the tracking has become complicated. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. So paid social trends, because tracking has become a big issue, really understanding what the customer journey is looking like, what's become more important than ever is the content and how we engage with our audience. So a few of the different trends that are going to be happening this year that we've already noticed with brands that we work with, and just in general of what's working and what's not working. The first thing, and I'm sure all of you are aware, is video. Nisha, our creative director, did a talk earlier around thumb-stopping content. Well, guess what? Not only is that thumb-stopping content important just because it's cool, but it's because it actually delivers value and delivers results, right? So video production will take the spotlight. TikTok will see tremendous growth. I'm sure all of you have seen it. You're like, hey, my kids are on this thing, it's cool, I don't use it. Well, I would be against my will of saying don't utilize TikTok. TikTok is an up-and-coming platform, not only for the value and entertainment content that's on there, but actually the educational content as well. What I see on TikTok versus what my team sees on TikTok versus what you see on TikTok is all different. It's really based on the interests of who we are as individuals. If you interact with certain types of content, you're going to see more of that. You follow certain types of people, you're going to see more of that. And come to realize that not only is it for dancing and popular trends, it's actually a very, very valuable source of information as well. So TikTok will continuously grow. Facebook ads will improve. Yes, I know it's hard. I know the iOS privacy changes are terrible. I know it's not as easy to understand who your ad is getting in front of, but don't worry, Facebook is here to stay. I know a lot of people think it's dead. It's not. It's only going to evolve. But what will happen is the performance will become better. Facebook's working on ways for offline tracking, for attribution, for ways for us to really understand what is happening. And it will take some time. Obviously, they're not the only ones in this space. They're working against others, but it will tremendously improve. Long-form content. This is the tough one, right? Who has time to create tons and tons of content, not only in volume, but also that in depth as well. And long-form content is really what's going to help us separate from the rest of the society, right? Not only do you need to make sure that you're actually running these ads, but like I mentioned earlier, you want to bring value. And one of the best ways to bring value is the long-form content. Now, in order to engage the user, you need to get their attention within the first 30 seconds. But after those 30 seconds, if they're engaged, you can spit as much information as you want to them. And it's okay, because they're bought in, they want to know more, and now you've given them so much value that the only thing that they have left to do is take an action step. So you want to make sure that we're utilizing long form content. And this can be videos, this can be blogs, this can be written articles, it can be a lot of different forms, but we want to make sure we not only utilize short form, but also long form content as well. Okay? Influencer marketing. I'm sure all of us heard of it. Everyone knows it reaps the benefits if you do it properly, but how do you do influencer marketing? So influencer marketing has become more difficult because numbers are hard to gauge. People have fake followers, people have fake engagement, and you're like, hey, what kind of value am I really receiving? So even though this has happened in the industry, it's still more important than ever because people actually make decisions based on the influence of others. First and foremost, your friends and family. I'm sure if somebody told you, hey, take a look at this, check this out, you may buy it. But the same thing with important people or influencers, right? They hold a certain type of authority. People like to look at their content. People respect their opinion. So influencer marketing will still continue to grow, and it is still important to be a part of your marketing strategy. The last two platforms will come out with new placements. You all saw this recently. You can now run ads on Instagram Reels. If you also didn't notice, you can now put stories out on TikTok. So things will continuously change. I don't want to get too deep into the future, but as the metaverse comes out, you will be able to have ads in the metaverse. So what does that look like? I'm not Nostradamus, so I'm not going to be able to tell you, but I do know that platforms will come out with new placements, and it is important for you to utilize those placements as early as possible because the platforms actually reward you when they come out with new features. I don't know if you ever noticed it, but when Live came out on all the platforms and you were going live, you were getting tons of engagement. When Instagram came out with Reels originally and you actually took advantage of it, you got engagement. So as they come out with new placements, if you actually utilize it, you will see the benefits of it. And last, social shopping. This one's all very, very important, right? What do we want to be able to do? We like something we see, we want to tap on it, and we want to buy it. Well, Instagram specifically and even TikTok are becoming more and more social shopping heavy, and what they will allow you to do is actually commerce and buy goods directly as you're scrolling through your feed. So that's going to be a huge one as well. Okay, what makes a successful social media campaign? So this is what probably everybody is really here for. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this and hope you all understand what really makes a campaign successful. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how Facebook ads work or what objective you need to use or what type of copy you need because those vary for every single one of us, right? We have different customers, we have different lines of businesses, we're in different industries, but what's important is the process that we use at Sociallyin for every single client that comes into our door. And I like to call this process the CTAR process. For those of you that don't know, like I mentioned, I'm of Indian heritage, and CTAR is actually an Indian word. And just to make sure all of you are paying attention, I have a little short video to show you all. So now you all know what a sitar is. Well, a sitar is a small classical Indian instrument that people in India back in the day would traditionally play during holy ceremonies. Well, not only is it that, what I really wanted to show you all is that's the philosophy and the mindset that we use at Sociallyin when coming up with ads. That was very subtle, very slow pace. It reminds you of a harp a little bit, but when you really go in with it, it's just as vibrant as a guitar, right? That's how social ads need to be. Subtle, but straight to the point, and then leave it impact. And that's the process that we use here at Sociallyin. So like I mentioned before, the first step of sitar is the strategy. This honestly is the most important step. If you do a good job here, you can always pivot accordingly to actually deliver the business goals that you have in mind. What does a successful strategy look like, right? A successful strategy starts with everything. Not only do you go into it with, hey, this is the game plan, this is how we're going to do it, you have to understand what's really happening. You have to audit the current business. Where are you running ads? What type of content are you putting out? What platforms are you relevant on? Great, you know this. Hey, who is my audience? What type of demographics are they? Are they specific to a specific region? Do they understand what types of interests they are fond of? Next, you have to do the research, right? So on top of the audience, what type of creative do they want to see? Is it videos? Is it photos? Do I need long form copy? Do I need short form copy? There's so many variables, right? But because if you do a solid job of the strategy, you can really build a plan that will hit your goals. And this is what we do. We start off with this. We understand currently what the brand is doing, audit what's working, what's not working, where do they need to improve, what goals do they have outlined. And once we've built their plan, the next step is the I, which is the implementation and execution. This is nothing fancy or anything crazy. All it is literal man hours doing the work and getting it done. And in your businesses, somebody going in and pushing the buttons and pulling the levers. So what that means is you got to get your social account set up, you got to begin the content development, you got to make sure that all of the tracking is in place. So I'll get into that here momentarily. You want to create your audiences, you want to build the campaigns, and then you got to not only build them out, you got to monitor them, right? What's happening? Is it going well? Is it not? We need to adjust. So what do I need to do when I adjust? How do I adjust? What is the steps, right? So after you implement and execute, the next is tracking and data. Like I mentioned to you, this has become the pain point for a lot of marketers out there, but don't fret. What I'm ultimately going to help you realize is the pixels are getting better. You are now able to do more offline attribution and conversion. Obviously, you have to understand how that needs to be set up, but it's not difficult. You need a developer on staff or somebody that's technically savvy. And what they will do is they will make sure that throughout your website, or if you have an app throughout your app, or whichever medium you're actually reaching your user, how are we engaging or tracking what they are doing? Are they just looking at my website? Are they clicking on multiple pages? Are they spending 4 minutes on it? Are they popping off immediately? If you don't understand these things, how can you make calculated decisions on what to do next? So this part is actually very, very important. And some of the steps that I have here that really will help you make sure you're doing it properly is once you get it set up, it seems very basic, right? But a lot of you would be surprised how many people don't do this. Go back and test everything out. If you're going to land on your website by clicking on an ad, go back to Google Analytics and see, hey, did I track my visit? Go back to the Facebook dashboard and say, hey, did that track my conversion? And make sure that it works. If these things don't work, you're just wasting money. You're just throwing the money away. So you want to make sure that you test every single bit of the tracking to ensure that it's actually working. After that, don't rely on a single source of data. This is the big mistake nowadays. Because the tracking became difficult, like I mentioned, sometimes the numbers would be skewed. It wouldn't be what you're really expecting. So instead, combine it all together. Get a full picture of what's going on. What does analytics say? What do my social platforms say? What does my robust tracking that my team has built say? What does Adobe say? Pretty much tie it all together. Mic died, but it's okay. Come to the conclusion for yourself, right? Because if you have all the data in front of you and you're like, hey, this is how it ties in, this is how it works, now you can form a conclusion. So you can tie it all together. Next thing is to make sure it's profitable, showcase what's working. A lot of times you're like, hey, I tied it together, but none of it makes sense. Well, understand what this is showing me, what the Facebook dashboard is showing me, what analytics will show me, and then understand which one will give you the data points for what's important. Analytics is a great place for you to understand what people actually do on your app or on your website. Facebook ads or any of the relevant social platforms will work good to showcase to you how people are engaging with your content. Are they actually clicking through? Did conversions happen? So they're not the same thing, right? You can track conversions in Google, you can track conversions on social platforms, but if the numbers don't match, which one are you to believe? Just a hint. But that's what makes it important, right? You want to make sure, just because one thing works for XYZ, another thing for something different, which one is more accurate? Now you make your decision. And the last thing is tie in, like I mentioned, rely on one single person, but combine them all together to paint the entire picture. How did they first interact with that ad? What action step did they take? Where did they go? Did they come back to the second ad that I put in front of them? Did they actually convert? And take the journey yourself, right? You're a marketer, you're a business owner. Take the journey yourself and see if I was on the other side, is this an efficient process and did it actually result in the outcome I wanted? Analysis and reporting, the A and C number. This one's important because you're like, hey, I got all my tracking, I got all the information that I need, but how do you report? That's the important thing. And a lot of times when you're a marketer, you don't know exactly what KPIs to look at, what metrics. Sorry about that, everyone. But you want to understand what's working, right? Like, and how, once you understand what's working, you have to figure out, okay, what types of information do I need to see and whose hands do I need to get it into? Sometimes you're not the one that's pulling the buttons or pushing the buttons and pulling the levers, right? So anytime that we're working with a client, how I typically start off with is there's different types of reporting. You have your executive people at the very top that all they care about is, hey, how much money did I spend and how much money did I make? Then you have your in-between people that are like, hey, I really need to monitor and make sure we're above average for our industry, that click-through rates are there, and make sure that people are actually engaging. And then you have those on the very ground, the front lines that I like to call it, the most important people in any business, the ones that actually care about what's happening with the data. Hey, did I change this ad because I saw that people were interacting more with it because there's an actual human being in there? Or, hey, did I segment my audience between men and women because I realized that 74% of the people that are engaging with me are women? Or even, hey, did this copy work better because it was much longer or much shorter? Those are the things as how granular you have to get for the ads to really make an impact. Sure, the top level, me, cares about, hey, did I make money on that? But what really matters is, why didn't I make money on that, or why did I make money on that? And that's what happens at this in-depth report. So when you're setting this up for your internal business as well, that's the way you want to look at it, right? I'm not saying only utilize one of these. Get all these reports, even more than that. Expand further upon this and get as much information as you can, and then put them in the proper hands. Looking at the in-depth report may not be beneficial for me because what I care about, I'm able to get from the executive report. And same thing for you. There is somebody in your organization that cares about each one of these levels, right? So after you look at it, you make the adjustments, and then you implement the new changes pretty quickly. But that takes me to the last step, which is the revamp and scale. So the last step of CTAR, which is now you understood your data, all the tracking's working, I ran the ads, I got the results, what do I do next? Well, you either change or pivot your strategy because it didn't yield the results you're looking for, or you actually scale. And a lot of people have the misconception that in paid media, that hey, if I spend $1 and I'm getting a 10x ROI, so I get $10 for every dollar I spend, let me spend $5 and I'm going to get 50x ROI. Wrong. This is not how it works. That's not how you scale ads. You have to understand the supply and demand. And like I said, I'm not going to get too technical about it, but what you do need to understand is, hey, if this is working, I want to spend more money to get more results, what's the proper way to do that? So I'll give you all a quick hint and a best practice on any social platform, no matter which one it is. Anytime you want to scale and grow your efforts, increase your budget by 15%, max 20%. Anything you do higher than that, the platforms are just looking to fill the space. So I'll give you an example. If I'm spending $100 a day on Facebook and I'm getting in front of 2,000 people, and on average, the CPM is costing me, let's say $25. What's going to end up happening is you double that spend to 200, your CPM is actually going to rise. So what ended up happening was now you spent double the money, but you got in front of less people than you originally were. And the reason is Facebook just wanted to spend the $200. It didn't care that you now had $200 to spend. Facebook's job is, hey, I need to get in front of these people because they may be interested. And that's what happens a lot of times. People see a successful campaign, they try to scale it up, and then they come to realize that, hey, I didn't get the results I'm looking for. And that's because they scaled too quickly, too fast. So you want to make sure that whenever you're scaling, you're doing it in subtle growth spurts, and then from there you look at the data, you analyze it, you revamp the campaign. And that's where the CTAR process starts over. Once you've gone through this, guess what? You do it again, and you keep doing it again, and you keep doing it again, and in 5 years, you will be the brand that you're wanting to be. It's a Sour Patch effect, right? They're sour at first, but they're sweet after. Paid social is the same way. It's sour right now, it sucks to do the work, it sucks to put in all that effort, but keep doing it, implement this process, learn from it, grow, and eventually it will all be sweet. Okay, where is social media advertising going, right? This is the important section essentially that I'd like to cover. So there's 4 main parts that I like to break